Discover why God revealed an invisible army to protect one man, a sacred, transforming truth. In the 3rd year of King Joram's reign in Israel, the nation faced trials and treachery as the king of Aram waged war against them. Yet amidst this turmoil, in the town of Dothan, dwelled Elisha, the prophet of the Lord. He was a man chosen by God, endowed with the Spirit to reveal truths beyond mortal understanding. His wisdom and prophetic insight had become a beacon of hope for Israel, for he could foresee the military plans of the Arameans and relay them to the king of Israel, prompting strategic victories. Through whispered strategies and divine revelation, Elisha had frustrated the plans of Aram to the point where their king boiled over with rage. "Who among us is for the king of Israel?" he demanded of his officers, suspecting betrayal. Unbeknownst to him, it was the prophet Elisha who, by the Spirit of God, declared the strategies of the enemy to the king. Determined to silence this man of God, the king plotted to capture Elisha and dispatched an army to Dothan. One fateful morning, as dawn broke and the sun cast a warm glow over the hills, Elisha's servant awoke to a sight that froze his heart with terror. The city lay encircled by a great host of Aramean soldiers, their armor gleaming like cold steel, and the rumble of chariots echoed in the air like distant thunder. Panic surged through the young man as he rushed to Elisha, trembling with fear. "Alas, my master! What shall we do?" he cried, his voice rising in despair. But Elisha remained calm, his spirit untroubled by the chaos surrounding them. "Do not be afraid," he said softly, "for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." With unwavering faith, he knelt and prayed, "O Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see." In that moment, a mighty transformation unfolded. As if a veil were lifted, the servant's eyes were opened to the spiritual realm. The hills surrounding Dothan shimmered with an army of heavenly hosts, chariots of fire that blazed brighter than the sun. The divine protection overshadowed the earthly might of the Arameans, and awe filled the servant's heart. What once harbored dread was now transformed by the overwhelming presence of God's power. With newfound courage, Elisha arose to confront the blinded Aramean soldiers. Instead of seeking revenge, he led them into the very heart of their enemies, the city of Samaria. The sight was laden with irony. Those who sought to imprison him were now at his mercy. With compassionate command, Elisha instructed his people to offer food and drink to their foes. What a stark contrast! It was a display of grace amidst tumult. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the Arameans began to regain their senses, uncertainty gripped their hearts. Instead of the swords they expected, they found mercy and kindness extending from their captors. While fear might have dictated their actions, Elisha's faith illuminated a profound truth: divine love can conquer human conflict. The Arameans returned home, marveling at the mercy they encountered, forever changed by the grace of an unexpected enemy. Yet a question lingered, inviting reflection: the deeper truth of trust amidst daunting trials. How often do we allow fear to cloud our vision, forgetting the invincible army of God that stands ready to protect us? This story compels us to seek, with open hearts, the greater reality that exists beyond what is enveloped by our own fears. What must we learn to embrace faith and trust in the unseen army of the Lord that battles for us each day? And it came to pass, when the king of Israel learned that the Arameans had been spared, he was filled with astonishment and, subsequently, remorse. For he had expected a day of victory, yet Elias' actions shone a light on the depths of grace. In a spirit of confusion, the king summoned Elisha, seeking to understand the workings of his mercy. "What is this that you have done? You have let my enemies go free," he lamented. Elisha, steadfast in his peace, replied, "My lord, the Lord has commanded us to forgive as he forgives. In mercy, there is salvation even for those who rise against us. With gentle wisdom, he pointed to the heavens, saying, For is it not written, As you forgive others, so your heavenly Father will also forgive you? The king's heart was troubled yet intrigued, for he knew the God Elisha served was a God who desired lives over sacrifices. In time, the Arameans would speak among themselves of the kindness they had received in Israel. They returned to their land, with tales of a prophet who had recognized their humanity despite their hostility. Through their testimonies, many hearts were softened, and some began to turn to the God of Israel. But soon, events would unfold that would once again challenge the faith of the Israelites. In the years that followed, the king of Aram, enraged by the loss of those he deemed his soldiers, devised a new plan. Envy and pride drove him to attack Israel with greater fervor. Reports of violent raids and bloodshed spread through the land like wildfires, igniting fear within the people. And it was during these dire times that Elisha sought the face of the Lord. "O sovereign Lord," he prayed fervently, "please protect your people from this impending doom. Show forth your mighty hand, as you have done before." His prayer, a lifeline thrown towards heaven, resonated in the sacred realm. And the Lord answered him, saying, "Hear, my prophet. I will strengthen my people, yet they must understand that they are never alone. Raise your voice among them, and remind them of my love that endures forever. For I am their refuge and fortress, their God in whom they trust." With renewed vigor, Elisha gathered the elders of Israel and proclaimed, "Prepare your hearts. The Lord is fighting for us against the powers that seek to devour. Place your faith in his protection." Murmurs of hope arose among the people as they found refuge in the promises spoken. But a darker shadow loomed on the horizon. As Joram's leadership faltered under fears and anxieties, whispers of betrayal began to stir within his own court. Darkness crept in, seeking to undermine the greatness of God's message through Elisha. Yet amidst the brewing storm, there awaited a greater revelation. While the spirit of strife sought to scatter, God's plan was preparing an undeniable sign of hope, one that would lay bare the heart of kings and the surrender of nations. In the very moments of despair, Elisha received a vision. A great showdown was coming, one that would manifest the power of God before the very eyes of the people. Indeed, the time had come for God's purposes to unfold in a dramatic display of his sovereignty, reminding them of the unfailing promise that through faith, he would protect and provide. Could the hearts of the people be so changed that even the warriors of Aram would confess their folly? Would the power of God transform chaos into peace? All of heaven watched, waiting for the moment when faith would collide with the frailties of man. What would the outcome be as the shadows of battle approached? The stage was set for a divine encounter that would surpass their wildest imaginings. And so the question lingered, beckoning the faithful to rise: how far would God go to secure his promise when the tempest of war raged? And it came to pass that as Elisha continued in prayer, the Lord's hand was upon him, revealing a truth that penetrated even the darkest recesses of the hearts of men. All of Israel was trembling under the threat of the Arameans, and the bellows of fear echoed in the streets. The warriors of Aram had approached with chariots and a multitude of men, their swords glinting ominously under the sun, and the haze of impending conflict weighed heavily upon the people. In that moment of tremulous anticipation, Elisha's servant, Gehazi, stood at the threshold of their dwelling, his heart steeped in anxiety. "Alas, my master! What shall we do? Our enemies encircle us, and we are but as sheep among wolves." His voice quivered, betraying the storm within him. Elisha, calm amid calamity, reassured him, saying, "Fear not, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." With that, he offered a prayer, interceding for Gehazi's eyes to be opened. "Lord, open his eyes, that he may see the armies of heaven which surround us." And as the words left his lips, the Lord answered, and Gehazi's eyes were opened. What he beheld was awe-inspiring. A host of chariots of fire and warriors adorned in celestial armor filled the mountains surrounding them. The very air shimmered with the glory of the Most High, an unseen force ready to defend the faithful. The servant fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sight, proclaiming, "Great is the Lord! Who are we, that you should open our eyes to such wonders?" Elisha then turned to him and spoke with conviction, "Take heart, for this is the assurance of his promise. The Lord fights for us, and victory will come not by our might, but by his power." Meanwhile, the king of Aram, consumed by rage and blind ambition, commanded an attack upon the city of Dothan, where Elisha resided. The armies swept in, like locusts devouring all in their path, yet they knew not the fate that awaited them. As the enemy advanced, Elisha stood undeterred. He knew that the battle was not merely against flesh and blood, but against the very principalities that sought to eclipse God's majesty and purpose. With a firm voice, he called upon the Lord once more. "Strike these people blind," he beseeched, "that they may witness the power of the Almighty." And thus the Lord did as Elisha had requested. Confounded and blinded, the Arameans lost their way, wandering as sheep without a shepherd. Elisha, though surrounded by enemy forces, bravely moved forth to meet them. "This is not the way, nor is this the city you seek," he said. "Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you seek." With their sight obscured and minds in disarray, the enemy followed the prophet into the very heart of Samaria, where the doors of the city would soon close upon them. Once inside, their vision was restored, and what they found caused them to be filled with terror. They stood before the king of Israel, ensnared in a moment of divine revelation. Elisha turned to the king and said, "Shall we strike them down, my lord?" Yet the heart of the king stirred with compassion, and he hesitated, remembering the lessons of mercy that Elisha had imparted. "No, let us offer them bread and water, and send them home." Indeed, in an unexpected turn of grace, the king provided feasts for their enemies, a display of humility that confounded both friend and foe alike. Having tasted kindness, the Arameans returned to their land without causing further strife, their hearts forever altered by the mercy that had been extended. More than mere deliverance, the Lord had demonstrated his unmatched power through acts of compassion, showing that truly, what the enemy intends for evil, God uses for good, Genesis 50 verse 20. As the threat receded, the words of prophecy echoed in the hearts of the Israelites, reminding them that God's plans are ever at work, even in the face of adversity. Would they now recognize that his invisible army stood at the ready, and would they trust in his faithful hand through future trials? The stage was set, and the unfolding of divine purposes remained yet to be revealed, beckoning all to seek the face of God and to witness the profound depths of his love and protection. For what lay ahead would challenge their beliefs, reshape their realities, and reveal the heart of God in ways they had not yet fathomed. How will the people respond when they are faced with his unrestricted reign? And it came to pass that after the Aramean warriors returned to their land, the peace that enveloped Israel was but a fleeting shadow. For the heart of the king of Aram burned with fury, and he vowed to devise yet another plan against the people of Israel. In the chamber of his palace, surrounded by his advisers and commanders, he spoke with a voice thick with bitterness, saying, "Behold, the God of Israel has confounded us. But we shall not relent. Send forth scouts to discover the location of this Elisha, for he is the one who reveals our plans to the king of Israel. We will capture him alive and put an end to this trouble once and for all." The scouts were dispatched, moving silently through the night, seeking the prophet's shelter. They discovered that Elisha resided in the city of Dothan, and they returned with word to the king, who rejoiced in the thought of victory. "Gather your chariots," he commanded, "and assemble a great army. We shall seize him at dawn." As the sun began to rise, the army of Aram drew near, encircling the city with fervor and intent. From the hillside, their chariots glimmered like ominous stars, and a great fear gripped the hearts of the inhabitants. As the dawn broke, so did the terror of the people, reminding them once again of their frailty against the might of such an army. Gehazi, now filled with dread once more, beheld the encroaching forces. Running to Elisha, he cried, "Alas, my master! What are we to do? The army surrounds us." His heart pounded as he spoke, his countenance pale as death. Yet Elisha, unwavering, said, "Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." This time, he did not pray for Gehazi's eyes to be opened, for the servant had already seen the uncountable hosts of heaven. Instead, Elisha's gaze turned towards heaven, and he called upon the Lord, asking, "O Lord, open the eyes of our enemy, that they may know your power and might." With mighty winds swirling, the Lord answered Elisha's prayer, unleashing a divine response. The ground trembled, and the skies grew dark. A great thunder shook the mountains, and a myriad of angels appeared, their presence filling the air with both awe and dread. The Arameans, once filled with boldness, were stricken with confusion. Not knowing the way, they turned upon themselves, their cries mingling with the tumult of battle. Seeing this, Elisha, full of faith, emerged from the walls of Dothan, unafraid and resolute. He went forth into the fray and called out, "This is the path. Follow me." For he knew that the Lord's hand was with him. The Arameans, under the sway of confusion, followed Elisha, believing him to be their guide. With every step taken into the heart of Israel, the king of Israel was at once startled and amazed when Elisha led the blinded soldiers before him. The foes lay at his feet, now rendered powerless. Fear gripped those who witnessed this miraculous moment, for all saw the hand of the Almighty at work. "What shall we do, O king?" the people murmured, glancing at one another in disbelief. Once again, Elisha interjected with divine wisdom, saying, "Do not slay them. Set before them a feast, and let them eat and drink." He urged the king to show mercy. Thus, the king of Israel prepared a great banquet, bringing forth food, drink, and sustenance to the very men appointed to destroy them. And it came to pass that after they had eaten and been satisfied, Elisha sent them away, unscathed, returning to their master. The Arameans departed with an astonishing new tale to tell, recalling the mercy bestowed upon them by the God of Israel. Yet, even as peace fell upon Israel, a question echoed in the hearts of many. Would the king of Aram renounce his aggression, or would he seek revenge once more? The heavens remained silent, as the people awaited the unfolding of God's greater plan. For in this moment of divine intervention, a truth was etched into the hearts of those who witnessed the power of mercy and grace. What lay ahead was yet unknown, and the echoes of promises long spoken began to intertwine. With the present leading them all to anticipate a day when the faithfulness of God would be made manifest anew, revealing how his glorious purposes encompass both judgment and grace. And it came to pass that in the days following the feast, the spirit of Israel rejoiced and marveled at the mercy shown towards their enemies. Yet within the heart of the king of Aram, a deeper rage festered, igniting his thoughts as a burning flame. He could not bear the shame of defeat nor the tale that spread throughout the lands of Israel, proclaiming their God as the protector of the weak. Thus the king took counsel once more with his advisers and warriors. He gathered them in his stronghold, a room dimly lit by flickering torches. With a fierce countenance, he declared, "Submit not to the God of Israel. For every act of mercy shall be answered with our own strength. Mobilize the army. Prepare for war, for we will crush their spirit and their God." Meanwhile, in the land of Israel, Elisha remained undeterred. His heart, fortified by the encounters he had witnessed, was steadfast in prayer. Morning and night, he sought the Lord, leaning not upon his own understanding but on the promises bestowed upon him. And as he prayed, a word came to him, a whisper bearing the weight of heaven. The Lord spoke, saying, "Fear not, for I shall bring about my purpose among the nations. Lift up your eyes, for I will show wonders, even in the face of darkness." While the king of Aram plotted, Elisha felt a stirring within, urging him to visit the city of Samaria. There, the king of Israel, still enamored by Elisha's wisdom, sought the prophet's guidance. Elisha found him in the court, his brow furrowed with anxiety. "O king, do you not see what approaches?" Elisha warned. "An army of darkness gathers at your gates. But take heart, for the Lord has set forth his hand to protect his people." With the weight of the prophecy upon him, Elisha instructed the king, saying, "Send forth the watchmen of the city, let them stand vigil upon the towers. For the Lord shall reveal the strength of his might. Unto the hills, messengers were sent, and the watchmen ascended high upon the towers, seeking the horizon for any sign. As twilight descended, a dread enveloped the city when they spied a massive host, a multitude of soldiers surrounding the land like shadows upon the earth. Deep terror gripped the hearts of the king and his soldiers. Word spread like wildfire, causing the men to tremble. "What shall we do?" they cried, for the enemy has come in overwhelming numbers. Elisha, hearing their lament, gathered them together and spoke with a calm authority, "Do not allow your hearts to tremble. For the army that surrounds us is but a fraction of that which the Lord has sent. You see the forces of men, but I have seen the armies of the Most High." At this, Gehazi questioned, "But how can we stand against such a host?" With eyes lifted heavenward, Elisha turned, praying once more, "O Lord, open the eyes of your servants that they may see." And as he uttered this prayer, the Lord granted sight to the eyes of those who stood with him. Suddenly, the hills erupted in divine glory, revealing chariots of fire and legions of angelic warriors, resplendent and fierce, surrounding the city with a radiant light. The air crackled with divine energy, and the hearts of the men of Israel swelled with newfound courage. "Behold!" Elisha exclaimed, "The armies which are with us are indeed more than those who are against. We shall not fear, for the Lord's purpose prevails." As the watchers beheld this great sight, they realized the truth of Elisha's words. The impending dread turned to awe, and hope ignited within them. Little did they know that what stood before them was not merely an army, but a sign of God's unyielding covenant to protect his own. But as the shadows of night began to deepen, and the army of Aram approached, the question lingered in the heart of every man, "How shall the Lord deliver us from the hand of our enemies?" The answer, hidden within the depths of the divine plan, was soon to be unveiled. The mercy that spared their foes was but a precursor to greater wonders yet devised in heaven, leading towards an unforeseen destiny for both Israel and the nations surrounding. And it came to pass, as the night deepened and the army of Aram drew near, that Elisha rose early to pray. With unwavering faith, he sought the counsel of the Lord amidst the growing tension that gripped the air. "O Lord of hosts," he prayed earnestly, "bless the hearts of your people and strengthen their resolve. Call forth your mercy and unveil your mighty hand." In response, a profound stillness enveloped the city. As dawn began to break, an urgent message swept through the camp of Israel, eliciting murmurs of wonder amongst the men. Their spirits, once weighed down by fear, began to pulse with new vitality as hope quietly ignited within. In the camp of Aram, the king stirred, ignited by his thirst for vengeance and the desire to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. He signaled for his commanders, and together they devised a plan, a treacherous maneuver intended to ensnare the prophet Elisha and subdue the people of Israel. "We shall take him alive," he proclaimed. "For if we capture the source of their strength, we will make them bow to our will." But the Lord had interwoven a divine purpose into the fabric of the day. As the sun rose higher, Elisha was enveloped in a comforting assurance. The Lord spoke to him, saying, "Elisha, arise and go forth, for I shall cast confusion upon the enemy." With newfound boldness, Elisha took his servant Gehazi and journeyed towards the camp of Aram. On their arrival, a great silence fell as the shouts of the army died away. The men of Aram, blinded by divine intervention, were met with an unexpected sight: Elisha standing boldly, his countenance glowing with peace. Elisha called out to them, "You seek the one who protects this land, yet the God of Israel leads those who stand against you today." The words of the prophet echoed like thunder in their hearts, piercing their pride anew. Confusion swept through the ranks of Aram, their hearts trembled, not at the might of the Israelites, but at the power of the unseen God who heard their cries. "Shall I not strike them?" came a voice from among the men, emboldened by the depth of their confusion. "No," Elisha declared, "for the Lord desires mercy over destruction. Instead, lead them away from this place into the light of his grace." And as if compelled by an unseen hand, the soldiers of Aram found themselves tethered to the words of the prophet. They lowered their weapons and stood still, like leaves caught in a gentle breeze, bewildered by the sublime authority of Elisha. Taking courage in the moment, Elisha led the captives to Samaria, the gates of the city opening wide to embrace them not as foes, but as those who would witness the deliverance of the Lord. There, before the king of Israel, they found themselves at the mercy of the people they once sought to destroy. "What shall we do with these men?" asked the king of Israel, his gaze fixed on Elisha, the terror of potential reprisals still heavy upon his heart. Elisha spoke, "Prepare a feast for them. Set before them a table of grace." Thus, they prepared a great banquet, and they feasted together, the boundaries of enmity dissolving as fellowship took root. When the meal ended, the captured soldiers of Aram returned to their land. They carried back a testimony, a revelation of mercy to their king, transformed by the providence of the Lord. Word spread throughout the land, kindling hope, a divine whisper declaring God's purpose was much greater than they had ever known. Yet, even as peace settled over Israel, silence cloaked the heart of the king of Aram. For he pondered deeply the report of the chariots of fire that had surrounded the city, and he sought revenge yet again. And thus, the question arose once more within the hearts of the people: what is God's ultimate design in this moment? The answer lay ahead, entwined with the destinies of nations, in a world where the invisible became visible, pointing to the revelation of a covenant deeper than they could ever conceive. The unfolding of his sovereign plan awaited. And it came to pass, in those days of awe and wonder, that the king of Aram, consumed by resentment and fury, summoned his commanders once more. "Gather your men and prepare for vengeance," he exclaimed, his heart hardened against the people of Israel. "We will strike where they least expect it. We will crush them beneath the weight of our might." The commanders nodded, their faces shadowed by the desire for glory. They plotted and schemed, their hearts blinded to the mercy shown by the God of Israel. In the dark of night, they crept forth, an army cloaked in vengeance, seeking to reclaim their pride. But the Lord was not absent. As the dawn broke anew, so too did the sovereignty of God reveal its splendor. Elisha, filled with the spirit of discernment, caught wind of the schemes of the king. And he turned to Gehazi, his faithful companion, saying, "The enemy approaches with might in their hearts, yet they have crossed the sacred bounds set by the Lord. Go now, and declare their intentions before the king of Israel. For God's hand is upon us still." Gehazi departed swiftly, sharing the weight of the prophet's revelation, igniting anew the resolve in the hearts of the Israelites. The king of Israel, steadfast yet trembling, was encouraged, drawing strength from the counsel of Elisha. Meanwhile, as the king of Aram's forces drew near, the air was thick with conflict's breath. They believed themselves to be the masters of their fate, yet the unseen realm beckoned with a greater reality. Elisha, in fervent prayer, sought God's protection upon his people. "O Lord of hosts," he prayed, "shelter us beneath your wings, and unleash your angels to shield us from this impending doom." As the sun reached its zenith, Elisha and Gehazi stood upon a hill overlooking the valley. The skies above them stirred, and suddenly, the air resonated with the sound of celestial warriors. The servant, awed by this display, peered into the realm of the unseen. "Alas, my master! What shall we do? The enemy encircles us." "Do not fear, Gehazi," Elisha answered, his voice steady and unwavering. "For those who are with us are more than those who are against us." Then, Elisha lifted his hands and prayed, "Lord, open the eyes of my servant." In that very moment, Gehazi's eyes were opened to behold a host of heavenly beings, chariots of fire rushing forth, standing ready in battle for the people of Israel. The sight was magnificent, and Gehazi trembled at the glory of the Lord. "Truly, O man of God, our help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth," he exclaimed, filled with an awe that once again transformed his spirit. Elisha, undeterred by the earthly conflict before them, turned towards the camp of Aram. "Lord, smite this army with blindness," he prayed. And as he had spoken, a profound darkness fell upon the soldiers of Aram, they could not see nor perceive their surroundings. Advancing toward them, Elisha called out, "This is not the way, nor is this the city you seek. Follow me, for I shall lead you to whom you desire." Confounded, the enemies of Israel stumbled forward, pillars of pride now crumbling into dust. As Elisha led them into Samaria, the very heart of Israel, the king witnessed the entirety of the Lord's design. Rather than destruction, Elisha had ordained a banquet once more, calling forth mercy over judgment, a revelation of God's boundless grace. In that moment, where the course of human conflict met divine intervention, a question lingered: what deeper purpose does God weave into the tapestry of his sovereign plan? For peace now danced upon the horizon, heralding the promise of a transformation that transcended wrath, a salvation echoing from centuries past, waiting to unfold in the hearts of a nation. Thus, the stage was set for a realization that would echo through time, unveiling the wondrous truth, that even in darkness, God's light shines brighter still. Yet what further mysteries awaited, entwined in the eternal narrative of his purpose, hung in the balance of anticipation. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel beheld the armies of Aram, now blind and led into the very stronghold of Samaria, that his heart quaked within him. The mighty display of Elisha's leadership in mercy confounded him, and he turned to the prophet, saying, "Shall I strike them down, my lord? Shall I not deliver vengeance for our people?" Elisha, with steadfast eyes full of divine wisdom, answered him, saying, "You shall not strike them. Would you smite those whom you have taken captive with your sword and bow? Set bread and water before them that they may eat and drink, and let them go to their master." With wonder and disbelief, the king of Israel obeyed Elisha's command. Servants hastened to prepare a feast, chairs placed in abundance, the tables laden with the bounty of the land. As the guests, blinded yet bewildered, were brought forth, they were fed from the abundant table, a symbol of God's mercy that flowed immeasurably. The commander of Aram, once a purveyor of death, tasted the bread, and the sweetness lingered on his tongue while the grace of God pressed upon his heart. After they had eaten and drunk their fill, Elisha declared unto them, "Go now in peace to your master." And so, they departed, their eyes removed from the bitterness of vengeance, now filled with the kindness shown by the God of Israel. The heart of the king of Aram was stirred in the following days, and he pondered upon the mercy he encountered in the land of his enemies. The leaders of Israel rejoiced, for the acts of mercy displayed were spoken of among the nations, revealing the unsearchable depths of God's grace, echoing the words of Psalm 23, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Yet the peace that enveloped Israel was but a veil over a simmering storm. For news came to the ears of Elisha, whispering of treachery stirring within the hearts of many in the land of Aram. The king, emboldened by his past encounters, plotted anew against Israel, seeking counsel from those who would tighten their grip on vengeance. But the Lord stood with his prophet. In the stillness of night, Elisha sought the face of God, trembling not at the plans of man but trusting in the power of the Almighty. "O Lord, grant me wisdom to discern the ways of our foes, and shield us with your mighty hand, for they know not the depths of their folly," he petitioned earnestly. In the morning light, as the sun cast its brightness over the city, Elisha gathered the elders and the people of Israel. The days of trial approach. We must prepare our hearts because the mountain of conflict rises before us once more. Let us not grow weary, but strengthen ourselves in the Lord. For the Lord declares through his prophets, "I know the plans I have for you, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Thus, the hearts of the people rallied once more, fortified by the assurance of Elisha's words. But the question remained, festering and profound: what further trials must they endure, and would not the enemy arise yet again? Yet, hidden within the folds of the unfolding story, there thrummed an eternal truth waiting to be unveiled, a purpose etched in the heavens, for God was weaving his sovereign tapestry even in the midst of despair. As the forces of darkness gathered once more, the light of his revealing truth was poised to burst forth like a sunrise over the horizon, promising a hope that would transcend momentary strife, and lead them to a revelation of his glory that had yet to be fully manifested. And it came to pass after these things, that the king of Aram, infuriated by the kindness shown to his army, summoned his most trusted counselors. As shadows fell in the twilight, they gathered in a room heavy with fear and plotting, the air thick with the scent of deceit. "What shall we do?" the king demanded, eyes fierce as touching flames. "This Elisha has foiled our plans time and again, his words are like the winds that thwart the sails of a ship. Where is this man's power that he bewitches our troops?" One of his advisers, emboldened by the darkness of his heart, said, "Surely, we must track him down and eliminate him, for he has become a thorn in our flesh. We know he resides in Dothan, let us send our chariots and horsemen to surround the city." Thus, the king commanded a great host to proceed under the cloak of night, silence becoming their ally. The darkness deepened as they advanced, countless chariots thundering upon the earth, rendering the ground as a mighty sea in uproar. Meanwhile, Elisha rose before dawn, his heart steady yet discerning. He walked by faith, for he had learned well the ways of his God. As he gazed out from the city, his servant, trembling with fear and astonishment, cried out, "Alas, my master! What shall we do? The armies of Aram have us surrounded." With calm assurance, Elisha responded, "Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." He then prayed earnestly, "O Lord, open his eyes that he may see." And the Lord answered his prayer. Suddenly, the servant's eyes were opened as if layers of fog had been peeled away, revealing a sight most wondrous. In the hills surrounding Dothan, fiery chariots and horsemen, more numerous than those of Aram, stood radiant in splendor, a divine host poised for battle. The servant stood in awe, marveling at this majestic sight, realization dawning upon him, the Lord of hosts had not abandoned them. With renewed faith, Elisha approached the enemy camp, confident in the might of the Almighty. "Lord," he entreated, "strike this people with blindness." As his words echoed into the air, the eyes of the Arameans were veiled, shutting them off from the truth of their surroundings. Now, Elisha commanded, leading them away, "Follow me, this is not the way, nor is this the city." With unwavering purpose, he brought them into Samaria. When they arrived within the city, the command was issued to open their eyes. The scales fell from their sight, and they beheld the stronghold of the enemy, the very place where they sought to ensnare their captor. The king of Israel stood aghast at the sight of his foes, unarmed and bewildered before him. Fear mingled with incredulity as he gazed at the great host, compelled to confront Elisha's wisdom. "My father," he implored, "shall I strike them down since they have fallen into our hands?" Elisha answered, "You shall not strike them. Would you kill those whom you have taken captive with your sword and bow? Set bread and water before them that they may eat and drink, and let them go to their master." Obediently, the king commanded his servants, and a feast was prepared. The Israelites set a table overflowing with bounty, and the captives ate with hearts heavy yet filled with wonder at the hospitality shown by their foes. After they had eaten and were satisfied, they drank, and Elisha declared, "Go now in peace to your master." The Arameans departed, eyes opened not to vengeance but to the grace revealed through Elisha and the God of Israel. In that moment, the tale spread through the land of Aram, encircling the hearts of men. "What a mighty God serves Elisha!" They murmured, poised between amazement and fear of retribution, for they could not deny the divine act that had unfolded before them. Yet still, whispers of treachery did not cease, for the hearts of men can be fickle, and the king's spirit brewed with vengeance anew. But hidden in the tapestry of these events, the heart of God was crafting a greater narrative, a purpose yet revealed, resonating with promises like those of Isaiah, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Thus, in the tension of peace and the threat of war, God's sovereign plan was but waiting to unfold in profound mystery, a truth that would reshape destinies where Elisha's vision of deliverance would unlock the heart of an entire nation. What further wonders would the Lord unveil in the days to come? And it came to pass that after the Arameans departed with their hearts softened by the mercy of Elisha, the land of Israel thrived in a fragile peace. Yet the king of Aram, consumed by his fury and the whispers of pride from those around him, would not relent. No longer could he bear the humiliation of his nation's defeat or the tales of mercy that stirred confusion in sundry hearts. As time unfolded, reports returned to Israel intelligence of the king's renewed aggression, his hardened resolve to obliterate the perceived threat posed by Elisha and his people. But behold, the fingers of God were weaving an even greater tapestry. For amidst this turmoil, Elisha, a humble servant of the Lord, would rise again to remind the people of the unseen battles being fought on their behalf. Gathering the elders of Israel one fateful morning, Elisha spoke with a voice filled with conviction, "Listen, O Israel. Fear not, for the same Lord who parted the seas and fed the hungry stands with us still. He has not abandoned us, his plans are eternal and good. We shall not fall into despair, but reclaim our hope through faith." Such words resonated through the hearts of many, rekindling the embers of courage and unity among them. The people of Israel, still reeling from past encounters yet emboldened by Elisha's unwavering faith, began to pray earnestly, seeking the face of the Lord for strength and guidance. They laid their burdens before God, acknowledging their deep need for His protection and intervention. The atmosphere shifted, the weight of dread dissipated as hope adorned their hearts once more. And thus, the day came when Elisha was instructed by the Lord, "Go forth to the king of Israel and proclaim a word of deliverance." On his way, the prophet encountered a servant of the community who was trembling with fear as shadows of the Aramean soldiers stirred again, threatening the land that had been graced by their mercy in the past. "Fear not," Elisha said with authority, "for the Lord shall intervene in a way that will astound all who behold it." With fresh vigor, he prayed for divine sight among the people, that they may see the reality of God's promise fulfilled around them. Suddenly, visions of angelic hosts fortifying the fields appeared, chariots of fire illuminating the skies as if to announce, "The Lord is among you." Deeming it vital that the king of Israel be brought into understanding, Elisha delivered a potent message at last: "This battle is not ours but the Lord's. Prepare, O Israel, for the curse of division will break, and we shall unite under the banner of grace and merciful strength." With the faithful words of the prophet motivating them, the king rallied his forces, rejecting the burdens of fear that had long clouded his judgment. He recognized not the foes outside but the greater battle within his doubts and hesitations. No longer would he fear the king of Aram, for the Lord had fortified his heart with the knowledge of who truly fights for his people. As the forces of Aram approached the city with the fury of an angry tempest, Elisha went forth to the battleground, unwavering and resolute. "O enemy, your eyes are blind to the truth," he called into the sea of soldiers arrayed against Israel. "The God of Israel stands against you, and his power eclipses your might." And before their eyes, the Spirit of God moved upon the Aramean army, striking a great dread within their hearts. Confusion reigned as they faltered among themselves, losing sight of their mission, their courage faltering like a candle flickering in strong winds. In that moment of spiritual upheaval, the heavens tore open, presenting the celestial army, radiating glory, and embodying divine justice. Witnessing this, the hearts of the Israelites were bolstered anew, spirits united in a hymn of faith and hope. "For the Lord of hosts is with us," they proclaimed. As the armies began to turn, fleeing in terror, the people of Israel surged forward, emboldened in the protective presence of their God. Elisha's voice rang out, "Now is the time to show them mercy once more. Pursue not to strike them down, but to bring them back into covenant. For the Lord desires hearts transformed, not just victories claimed." Thus, the Israelites showed the Arameans kindness once again, bringing them back to the heart of Israel as they had done before, offering food, drink, and warm hospitality. The people of both nations gathered at the table to feast, and there began a healing wrought by grace that surpassed their historical enmity. In this profound moment, nations turned not to arms but toward understanding, and the word spread rapidly. A new alliance formed not from fear but from the fabric of mercy stitched by the hands of God. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow upon the reconciled assembly, hearts were ignited by faith, awakening to the realization that God's love knows no bounds. Years passed, and peace blossomed into a new era of unity and understanding, the kind that could only be forged through the powerful intercession of the Lord. Elisha, the prophet, became a beacon of hope and reconciliation for his people, the walls of division crumbling under the weight of God's truth. As they turned their backs on vengeance, the Arameans and Israelites reflected the heart of God, revealing that neither the enemy nor the friend was beyond the reach of his transformative love. And they all knew, in the silent battles, the invisible army of God surrounds them, strengthening, guiding, and renewing faith across generations. And it shall come to pass, from generation to generation, let the people always remember, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6. As we draw this sacred narrative to its conclusion, I urge you, subscribe immediately to this channel to stay connected to God's Word, and don't miss the powerful stories that continue to transform lives today. Leave a like now, for your support helps spread God's truth through the algorithm to many more seekers of faith. Comment your reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your own walk with the Lord? And share this profound testimony with at least 5 friends who desperately need to hear of God's unfailing love and mercy. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait another second to be a vessel of God's light.